Here comes a moment where your pain becomes your awakening, a moment where you no longer beg to be understood because you finally understand yourself. That's not just healing, that's transformation. And that's when the narcissist loses all control over you. Let me ask you something. What if I told you that you've always had the power to break free? Not by fighting, not by running, but by rising, because you, my friend, might just be a super empath. And that changes everything. You see, a narcissist operates in the realm of control, illusions, manipulations. They thrive in drama, feed on confusion, and dance in emotional chaos. But a super empath is a mirror, one that reflects the truth so clearly the narcissist can't bear to look. The moment you stop reacting and start observing, the moment you stop trying to fix them and begin healing you, that's the moment their power shatters. Super empaths have this incredible ability to feel energy deeply. You don't just walk into a room, you read it. You don't just hear words, you sense intentions. But for too long, you've been conditioned to see your gift as a weakness, to silence your intuition, to doubt your worth, to confuse abuse with passion, chaos with love, and trauma with connection. Not anymore. The shift begins when you make a decision to stop living on autopilot, to stop being a match to their frequency, to reclaim your energy and reprogram your mind. When you raise your emotional baseline, you become invisible to the narcissist. Why? Because you're no longer vibrating at the level of pain. They can't hook you anymore. Here's the truth most don't want to hear. You don't break the narcissist by destroying them. You break them by becoming someone they can no longer touch. By mastering your thoughts, by regulating your nervous system, by shifting from survival to creation, you become so emotionally sovereign, so mentally elevated, so spiritually aligned that they lose their grip on your reality because your focus is no longer on them, it's on your becoming. You aren't here to stay small. You aren't here to be broken. You are here to evolve, to disrupt the generational trauma, to be the first in your lineage to say enough. You don't need their validation. You don't need closure. You don't need them to say sorry. Why? Because you're writing a new story, one where your healing is your revenge and your peace is your power. So I want you to remember this. You are not too sensitive. You are deeply aware. You are not too emotional. You are powerfully intuitive. You are not broken. You are awakening. And the narcissist, they can't stand your light because they can no longer control your shadow. The super empath is not just someone who feels deeply. They are a person whose nervous system has been trained through pain to become acutely attuned to the emotional undercurrents that others miss. They walk into a room and sense everything. The silence between words, the tension behind a smile, the fear wrapped in arrogance. This isn't just emotional intelligence. This is energetic intelligence. A super empath doesn't only hear you, they feel you. And in the presence of a narcissist, this gift becomes a kind of spiritual technology because while the narcissist plays in the realm of illusion, the empath lives in the realm of truth. Narcissists manipulate, distort, and gaslight. They need to control the narrative to survive. They are addicted to power over others because they feel powerless within themselves. But what happens when they meet someone who sees through the mask, who doesn't just fall for the performance, but quietly watches the space behind the words? That's the danger of a super empath. Not because they fight back with aggression, but because they see clearly. And clarity is the one thing a narcissist cannot survive. The super empath disrupts the narcissist's entire ecosystem. They are the glitch in the matrix, the mirror that doesn't lie. When the narcissist tries to guilt them, the empath responds with boundaries. When manipulation is used, the empath responds with awareness. And slowly the narcissist begins to lose control. Because you can't control someone who's conscious. You can't enslave a soul that has already chosen freedom. You see, the power of the super empath isn't in their resistance, it's in their detachment. It's in their ability to no longer personalize the attack, to step out of the emotional storm and witness it instead of absorbing it. That kind of presence, that kind of calm, it terrifies the narcissist because their power relies on your reaction. And the moment you stop reacting, you break the loop. You interrupt the pattern. You change the script. And they don't know what to do with that. The narcissist needs to be the center of your world, but the super empath, they become the center of their own. They stop orbiting around pain and start rooting in peace. And when that shift happens, everything begins to unravel for the narcissist because their tactics no longer work. Their words no longer penetrate. Their energy no longer sticks. It's like trying to play a game with someone who simply stopped showing up to the field. And that's the real revolution. The super empath doesn't break the narcissist by going to war with them. They break them by rising above the game entirely. They evolve, they transmute, they transform. They stop being prey and start becoming presence. And in that elevation, they create a frequency the narcissist simply can't touch. That's the beauty of becoming conscious. You begin to see that you're not here to fix anyone. You're not here to convince them to love you. You're here to remember who you are. And when you do that, you naturally become immune to the very things that used to destroy you. That's not just survival. That's now the process of breaking the narcissist starts with something much deeper than simply walking away. It begins in the subconscious mind. It begins in the silent programming that was installed before you even knew how to speak. Because the truth is, most of us were conditioned to confuse love with pain. We were taught through neglect, abandonment, chaos, that love was inconsistent, that love meant proving yourself, that love meant giving and receiving just enough to stay addicted. So we recreate those patterns. We attract the narcissist because unconsciously they feel familiar. They match the emotional signature of our past. And until we reprogram those patterns, until we bring consciousness to the subconscious, we'll keep repeating the same toxic loops under different names with different faces. But once you become aware, everything changes. You begin to notice your triggers. You begin to witness your responses. You start asking deeper questions. Why do I tolerate this? What belief am I operating from? What memory is this pain connected to? And suddenly, the external drama becomes a portal to internal freedom. When you start doing this work, this deep, uncomfortable, transformational work, you shift from victim to creator. You stop waiting for someone else to change and begin changing your energy. You stop fighting what is and begin creating what could be. You stop identifying with the story and begin rewriting it. And this is where the power lies. Because as you heal, you literally change your frequency. You stop emitting the signal of unworthiness, of scarcity, of fear, and you begin to broadcast love, clarity, abundance, and self-trust. And when that signal changes, the narcissist can no longer find you because they were only drawn to the version of you that was still in pain. Healing isn't just about feeling better. It's about becoming unavailable to what once felt normal. It's about raising your baseline so high that chaos no longer feels like chemistry, that drama no longer feels like passion, that manipulation no longer feels like love. But make no mistake, this isn't an overnight transformation, it's a journey, a reconditioning, a moment-by-moment choice to return to self. It's catching yourself when the old program tries to run again. It's breathing through the discomfort of breaking a lifelong pattern. It's holding yourself in compassion, even when part of you still misses the familiar chaos. And yet, with every conscious breath, with every aligned decision, you send a new signal to your brain, your body, your heart. You teach your nervous system that safety doesn't come from being accepted by them. It comes from accepting yourself. That love isn't found in their approval, it's found in your own presence. And that freedom doesn't require their apology, it only requires your evolution. This is the work, not to destroy the narcissist, but to disempower the patterns that attracted them, to become so grounded, so elevated, so attuned to your own worth that their presence no longer registers as significant because you've outgrown that level of consciousness, because you've remembered the truth. You were never broken. You were just conditioned to forget your power. The narcissist does not operate in reality. They operate in emotional distortion. Their fuel is not logic. It's not truth. It's your reaction. They thrive on keeping you dysregulated, on pulling you into their emotional chaos, because as long as you're reacting, you're not reflecting. As long as you're chasing their approval, you're not connected to your own inner knowing. And that's the game. That's the loop. That's the invisible addiction. Now, the super empath, they break this pattern not by confronting it head on, but by stepping out of the energetic battlefield altogether. They heal not by winning arguments, but by no longer needing to have them. And that requires mastery. That requires learning to regulate your nervous system in the face of chaos. That requires choosing presence over pain. That requires becoming so internally aligned that external manipulation has nowhere to land. The narcissist cannot survive in emotional neutrality. Their power dissolves in the presence of non-reactivity, because their entire strategy is to get you to question yourself, to chase clarity, to defend your reality while they twist it. But the super empath, when conscious, refuses to play that game. They don't give away their center. They don't collapse into the emotion. They feel it rise, they watch it, they name it, they breathe through it, and they return to themselves. That level of awareness is revolutionary. It's alchemical, because the moment you stop matching their emotional frequency, you stop feeding their illusion. The narcissist wants you to react in rage, in despair, in confusion, because that's when they feel in control. But what happens when you meet the trigger with presence? When you answer their gaslighting with silence, when you observe their chaos and choose not to participate, they begin to lose their grip. Not because you overpowered them, but because you no longer align with the version of yourself that they had access to. You no longer vibrate in the realm where they exist. That's not escape. That's transformation. And this transformation, it's not about denial. It's not about pretending the pain isn't there. It's about learning to witness your emotional body without becoming enslaved by it. It's about observing the activation and asking yourself, is this mind or is this old? Is this truth or is this programming? You slow down the moment. You breathe into the space between stimulus and response. You reclaim your energy from the battlefield and bring it home to your heart. This is emotional sovereignty, and it's the kryptonite to narcissistic control. Because when you are centered, when your energy is yours, when your peace is internalized and not dependent on external validation, they can't reach you. Not because they stopped trying, but because you're no longer broadcasting the wounds that invited them in. Your nervous system is no longer calibrated to chaos. It's attuned to coherence. It's synchronized with peace. And in that frequency, their manipulation feels like static, like noise, like a signal that no longer downloads. You've changed the lock. You've upgraded the code. You've become unhackable. But here's what's most extraordinary. The narcissist doesn't even realize what's happening. They'll think you've become cold, detached, unavailable. But the truth is, you've simply awakened. You've realized that you don't need to chase love where it doesn't live. You've remembered that peace isn't found in getting them to change. It's found in choosing yourself over and over again. You don't break the narcissist by attacking them. You break them by becoming someone their dysfunction can't attach to, by becoming emotionally self-regulated, psychologically clear, spiritually aligned. They feed on your uncertainty. They unravel in the presence of your clarity. This is why your healing is not just personal, it's energetic. When you regulate your nervous system, you change the way your body responds to triggers. When you reprogram your subconscious mind, you change the meaning you assign to experiences. And when your energy shifts, everything else follows. You start seeing red flags without needing to justify them. You start hearing manipulation in the tone, not just the words. You start recognizing that love doesn't come wrapped in confusion, that affection doesn't come with punishment, and that connection doesn't feel like fear. You stop intellectualizing abuse. You stop romanticizing pain, and you begin choosing yourself, not out of anger, but out of awareness. This isn't just emotional maturity, it's spiritual elevation. Because when you truly awaken, you see that every painful experience was a mirror showing you where you still needed to heal, a mirror reflecting the parts of you that believed you were unworthy, that believed love had to hurt, that believed sacrifice was proof of devotion. But now, you're done with those patterns. You've evolved. And in that evolution, something powerful happens. You start making decisions from your future self. You stop responding from your trauma and start acting from your vision. You start speaking from your alignment, not your wounds. You start creating from love, not survival. This is the shift from the old identity, the one that was shaped by abandonment, rejection, betrayal, to the new identity, the one that's rooted in truth, the one that doesn't need to prove anything, the one that knows love because it has finally become it. The narcissist can't reach this version of you. They can try the same tactics, but there's no reaction. They can push the same buttons, but the circuitry has changed. They can play the same game, but you've left the arena. And here's the deeper truth. You didn't break them to be vindictive. You broke them because you stopped playing small. You stopped shrinking. You stopped negotiating with dysfunction. You stopped choosing fear disguised as love. And you finally stood in the wholeness of who you are. The narcissist cannot coexist with someone who is awakened to their worth, because worth is a boundary they can't cross. Worth is a light they can't dim. Worth is a mirror that exposes everything they've tried to hide. So you don't win by beating them. You win by becoming unavailable to anything that doesn't honor your soul. You win by healing your nervous system so deeply that chaos no longer feels like home. You win by being so conscious that unconscious behavior can't survive around you. That's the power of the super empath, not just to feel deeply, but to transmute pain into presence, trauma into transformation, fear into freedom, to become so in tune with your own energy that no one else gets to write your story again. If this spoke to your soul, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Leave a comment below. I am reclaiming my power. Let's flood this space with healing, growth, and high vibration. And remember, the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more awakened empaths like you.